Welcome to the offer letter, guys. For the first time in my life, I've done a lot of shows. I've done a TEDx talk. I've done many interviews in my life, but for the first time, I'm a bit nervous. So please bear with me. I have probably one of the most powerful men you would have ever seen you would have not seen predominantly because he's not visible as much as a lot of bureaucrats that I've met, but he was the main man behind a lot of things that you use in your day-to-day lives today. Let me give you a quick intro. Maybe half an hour might not be enough for this, but I'll give you a quick intro. So every day, crores of rupees move in and move out of India or the country through ports, through borders. And in some places, you can't even imagine how they're trying to smuggle these goods. But there was one man whose job was to make sure that India claims back every penny that it is owed. 37 years inside India's most powerful tax machinery. He ran the agency that hunts smugglers. He shaped the GST. I've been told that you cannot buy him. I've been told that you cannot pressure him. I've been told that you cannot move him unless you're right. So today, for the first time, he speaks without a file in front of him, Mr. Najib Shah. Welcome to the show, sir. It's a pleasure. And as I already said, I'm a little bit nervous about this show, but thank you so much for being here. I want to give a quick introduction about your titles that you've bared over the years. So during the period of 2008 to 2017, he was associated with the Ministry of Finance, Government of India under various roles such as Joint Secretary, Chief Commissioner of Customs, Director General, Director of Revenue Intelligence, and member and chairman of Central Board of Excise and Customs. I mean, these are some of the positions that I've been able to collect. But sir has done a lot more than what I've got here. So please, sir, thank you so much for being here. Can you give me a quick intro of who you are and what you've done over the years?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Krish, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
I am flattered by your introduction because I was just a bureaucrat, and a bureaucrat moves from a position to a position. He serves the government of India to the best of his capacities. And it has been a pleasure working with the government of India in my various capacities as you have spelled out. So yes, it has been a long journey. It has been a journey of 37 years, and it's a journey which I do not regret at all. And I look back at it with a lot of satisfaction. So thank you for having me here once again.
Thank you so much, sir. I want to tell you guys something. So I've probably known sir for about, directly or indirectly, for about 4 years now because we live in the same compound. Sir goes on his evening walks and his morning walks, and I've seen him many, many times. He heads the book club in our society as well. I've never tried to research who sir is. I know he was a powerful guy, but I never researched who sir is. And now for this podcast, when I started researching, I feel really, number one is embarrassed that I didn't research about him before, but also so proud to share the same compound with you, sir. I mean, I read articles, I watched videos about you, and it gave me goosebumps. I mean, to be honest, we're going to talk about a lot of that today. So the first question I want to ask you is, sir, most people spend their lives trying to avoid the tax department, including myself. I think it's probably one of the most scariest, but yet a mandatory thing that you might have to do on a year-on-year basis. And you spent 37 years running it. So what does that say about you? Is it about your courage, your madness, or just destiny?
The combination of everything, I would think, primarily destiny. Remember, taxation, as they say, is the price which you pay for civilization. It is critical, it is essential for the country's development. Somebody has to collect it. It's not a thankful job. The taxpayer feels aggrieved to pay the tax, little realizing that it is that money which the government uses for development purposes. What he should, as a taxpayer, expect of the department and the government of India is that the money which he so pays is used in the manner in which he gets better services, better roads, better hospitals, better schools, better services right through. So that is what the taxpayer should expect. And a taxman should ensure, like you mentioned earlier on, that we collect only what is due to the government of India, nothing more, nothing less. And it's a thankless job, but it has to be done. And you should not look at it as an extraction. You should look at it as a duty, which you are rendering now.
Absolutely. But according to you, a lot of expats or a lot of NRIs who move back to India, or including myself. I mean, I lived abroad for a long, long time. And when I moved back to India, the price of taxes compared to where I still live is almost on par with what I used to pay abroad as well. But the facilities that we get in India compared to what we get abroad is a sky to earth difference. What did you say on it, sir? I mean,
I think it's work in progress as far as the government of India is concerned. You will agree that there have definitely been improvements on a year-on-year basis. We can do better. We are striving to do better. And I think some degree of patience from the ordinary citizenry is expected. But having said that, I think as a taxpayer, you have every right to demand better services.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've been trying to demand, we'll probably get there one day. But so in 1979, a young man joined IRS. So what was going through his mind? Was it ambition? Was it duty? Was it just an accident? Or did someone else make this decision for you and forced you into IRS?
No. Nobody made this decision for me. I had decided very early on that I would like to join the civil services. I, of course, did not know how. I did not know what it entailed. Having graduated, I went into a postgraduate degree. The minimum age for qualification is 21. You can write the exams. So I was touched 21. I wrote my exams. I didn't complete my MA. I was lucky. I got through the civil services in the first attempt. And I joined the civil services. Why I joined the IRS? It's a combination of factors. Your rank determines which service you get. And my rank determined that I could get certain number of services. I chose IRS among them. So that's how I'm in IRS. So largely you could call it destiny, with a little bit of luck somewhere down the line.
But would you say you're really good in numbers? I mean, were you considering you?
No. I'm not really good in numbers. What I do think I'm good at is in formulating policies. I think I am good at enforcing policy when I was in the field. I think I give my 100% wherever I am, which I think is what is required ultimately.
Brilliant. So, as a student before IRS, would you call yourself you're like in the top tier student in the class, or were you an average student?
I was a very average student, primarily because I was engaged in all sorts of activities. I was engaged into a bit of reading, a bit of writing, and lots of sports activities, and also studying. So my studies always got impacted. But having said that, I ensured I passed all my examinations. I did not really fail anywhere. And I was not a brilliant student at all. I was a very, very average student who knew that he had in him to do better and felt that he could do it better at some point of time later.
But did you have any sort of any training academies that you joined to prepare for UPSC?
No, not at all. I did not. I did not join any training academy because I really did not believe that they add much value. So I did it all on my own. I knew a couple of people who had qualified in the services earlier, and they also acted as guides in telling me how to prepare, what to prepare, and what to focus on. But I did not join any academy.
How many hours of studies were you putting in, sir? Because you cleared it first time.
While preparing for the civil services, it was anything between 10 to 12 hours of study. But it was very, very focused study. The syllabi is very vast.
Yes.
So you can't cover the whole thing. So I focused. Fortunately, I was able to get through.
Wow. Well, I do run a company called Browse Jobs, and one of the common problem statements that I always get in this, through my students. I mean, we have over 3 lakh students at the moment, and we accommodate students from across India, from remote parts of India. And one of the biggest problem statements that we encounter is, so people are mostly North Indian students. I mean, they are very focused on getting into UPSC. I mean, for them, the government role is their first option, and then they think about their private. And not everybody gets in at the first attempt, and they give 1 or 2 or 3 years or 3 attempts. And the problem is, once they finish the third attempt, now they have the 3-year gap between their studies and, before they get into any job. A lot of these UPSC, aspirants, because of this 3-year gap, they don't know where to move forward from there, because the private sector would not allow them to get in because they have a 3-year gap. So they're not eligible to get into a private sector, and they're not able to get into a public sector because they weren't able to clear. Now they're stuck. On an average, I get at least 5 to 7,000 students approaching me on a year-on-year basis who are UPSC aspirants. What do you think is the problem here, sir? Do you think the government should bring in a law, or, nobody talks about it. We know it because we face these on a day-to-day basis. But do you think the government should bring in a law that the private sector should not disregard them as a gap candidate, rather than accept them, saying, okay, 3 years, no problem, but still do a fresher interview with you and then bring you on board?
You see, the civil services are a very challenging exam. On an annual basis, there are roughly between 800 to 1100 vacancies, depending on the year, depending on the ministry, depending on the department, which tells the UPSC how many candidates they want. The number of students writing the examination run into lakhs. So the process is challenging. Obviously, more number of people fail than pass. Given the aspirations of very many of our youth, they would like to go into bureaucracy for various reasons. So they feel that if they don't make it in the first attempt, they ought to try more and more. And currently the government has given multiple choices, multiple attempts. And that has acted as a factor to spur them on to try again and again.
Correct.
My experience has been that candidates who try several times later, again, a very small percentage only gets in. It's not as if
Correct.
all of them who miss it in the first go get it in the second or third or fourth go. Therefore, you have a serious problem, like you rightly pointed out. The industry, I think, should be cognizant of the fact that these guys have put in a lot of hard work. They're capable of doing a lot of hard work, and give them a break and a chance. I don't think the government can bring in any law as such. It's one of those laws which will not be implementable easily, but perhaps persuade the private sector to look at them a little more benignly, simply because these are guys who are working hard, who are capable of working hard, and because of the nature of the examination have not been able to get through. It's not a reflection of their capabilities. That is something which the private industry ought to be cognizant of.
Brilliant. Another thing, just off the topic a little bit, another thing that I was very mesmerized with when I was talking to you the last time we met is your vocabulary and the way your communication skills. Was this something that you built on from younger days, or was it during your career period?
No. My mother was one of the few early graduates of Queen Mary's College in Chennai, Madras. She was very fond of reading and inculcated in us the love for reading. So I have been reading from a very, very early young age. She encouraged us to get books, buy books, to read books, to tell her what we have read. So I think that played a major role in my being able to communicate. I think it's a necessary requirement when you go up in bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
But it should not. I really believe that the ability to speak in English is not a factor which you should look at in a candidate. What you look at, irrespective of the language, is communication skills.
Absolutely.
Which means he speaks what he has to say, he communicates what he thinks, and there's no gap in between. So that is what is essential. So I was fortunate that very early on, I was introduced to books and to reading.
But the reason I asked you is one of the biggest reasons why even the brightest of the brightest students are not able to crack a job or get into a role is because of their communication skills, because they've given that more priority than the actual content or the skill that they're going to, use in their job. So if you were to give, changing this mindset would probably take a long, long time, and the precedence to English or the priority to English language is going to be. I think it's not going to change anytime soon. But if there's a guy sitting somewhere in the remote villages at the moment, and his biggest confidence issues is his communication skills, what advice would you give him to improve his communication skills?
To get rid of his reservations. Ultimately, the idea of any communication is to let the other person understand what you're trying to say.
Correct.
So you know what is it that you were trying to say. Let not the language come in the way. You can make errors in speaking the language, but ensure that you communicate. I may just add here, the civil services currently permits you to write the examination in all the languages of the Constitution of India. So you can write the examination in Tamil, in Bengali, in Urdu, in Persian, in Odia, whatever language. So the idea being that we don't just want the glib, urban speaking, English speaking, convent educated guys into the service, because they are good in communicating, but they don't have serious content.
Correct.
The guy from the rural area will have serious content, but have reservations about communication. So now an opportunity has been made available to them. That look, let not language come in a way of getting into the services and communicating. You don't need to know English except basic skill of informing the other, understanding the other. All state governments do their file work in their local languages, in the regional languages. It's only the central government which still works in English and in Hindi.
Yeah.
But otherwise, state governments work in the regional language. So that is a major fill-up then for people who lack the skills in English, which I really think is a blessing or a curse, depending on how you look at it. But I don't think it should come in the way of communication.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, sir. But unfortunately, the private sector is very persistent on having good communication skills, or you don't even get an interview. And how are they supposed to get into a job without getting an interview? It's a cat and mouse game, but unfortunately, that is the reality of the situation at the moment. So you received the Presidential Award for Distinguished Service. When that happened, did it feel like recognition? Or did it feel like, oh, finally?
No, certainly not finally. Because I know a lot of people deserve the Presidential Award. I know a lot of people who work hard, who work honestly with the highest degree of integrity. Again, not everybody gets it. So I was fortunate, I was lucky, and grateful to the government that they thought me fit enough to get a Presidential Award. So nothing more than that.
Okay. Well, so, inside the IRS is someone with an impeccable record of honesty in a system where that is not really easy to commit to. I'm not saying it is a corrupt system, but it's not always a reality on this spectrum. Was there ever a moment where integrity cost you something real, or a posting or a promotion or a relationship?
No, never. Whatever you may think of the government still values integrity, and it still needs people who are honest. So I was again fortunate that my integrity did not come in the way of any posting. In fact, I would think on the contrary, I got a lot of posting because it was perceived that I'm a person of high integrity. So it has been helpful for me rather than in any way a negative factor.
Superb. But were there any external pressures or external influences from not only the bureaucrats but also the politicians to compromise on certain situations where you've said no? And
you see, the Fact of the matter remains that if a person is of high integrity, very rarely or nobody even asks you to do a wrong thing because they know that's what you are. And your reputation, honesty or dishonesty, travels before you. So that is not an issue at all. I was never asked to do a wrong thing or not do the right thing. And I did precisely what I thought was correct and what is needed for the government in the best interest of government.
Brilliant. You were also managing a lot of ports and were also heading the financial system where you were pretty much the investigation authority to catch smugglers and things like that. What was the most bizarre thing that you've experienced in your entire career where people were trying to smuggle? One where you would say this guy was too smart. Another one was like, are you serious? I mean, what were you thinking?
No, a lot of the career is littered with such bizarre cases. The thing which men can do to make money, men can do to hoodwink the system is unimaginable. Very early on in my career, we had a case of smugglers trying to smuggle in gold by concealing in the rectum. I never knew that was going to be possible, and it was quite an experience.
Oh my
Because we had to purge the goods out of the system, and that is not a very messy affair. But then it happened. We have cases of drugs being sought to be smuggled by swallowing and ingesting it, which is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
But it is done. But it is done by people to hoodwink the system for the money. You see, there are smugglers who do this because they have no choice. I would really think they do it for a pittance because the main man is somebody else who has given them the goods, receives the goods, and they get paid a pittance. I certainly think we should view them with much more compassion because they're forced into doing it for economic reasons. But then you have a large variety of people who do the smuggling or enter into acts where they try to evade taxes, despite not needing to do so. As late as yesterday, I read about a case in Bombay of somebody, a financier, smuggling in gold. Now, he does not have to do that. He can jolly well pay the taxes, but they do it. They do it because they save the taxes and they make an extra buck. So I think cases involving people in authority, involving themselves in acts of smuggling are something which are unpardonable because the government has trusted you with a job. We are aware of cases on the Indo-Pak border where officials who are charged with protecting the border are involved in smuggling of contraband.
Yeah.
Now that is pathetic, and we have had such cases too in the course of my career, which is sad because they don't need to do that and they should not be doing that.
And were you going for these raids quite often?
Initially, in the earlier part of my career, as part of the job, I was very much going for raids. Latter half, I did not, obviously. But initial part, yes, one did go for raid.
Wow. Brilliant. So, India loses lakhs of crores every year to smuggling, counterfeiting, and illicit trade, like you mentioned. So, the money that could build hospitals, schools, or jobs, why is this not treated as a national emergency? And
it's a tragedy, really. It's a tragedy. Unfortunately, people do not look at smuggling with the seriousness in which it should be looked at.
absolutely.
I blame multiple factors in this. One is the ordinary citizen. If he were not to buy a smuggled good, smuggling will not take place.
True.
So he should insist on a bill. He should insist on ensuring that the quality of good which he's purchasing is good. If I buy a smuggled pharmaceutical product, a smuggled car part, I'm getting no warranty. I'm getting no guarantee of that product. Despite it, one purchases it because it's a little cheap. If I insist on a bill, there's no question of a smuggler trying to sell in smuggled goods. Fortunately, thanks to liberalization, that sort of open sale of non-duty paid goods has come down dramatically. It's no longer a major challenge. But you have that problem in IP violations, which is also something which we look at in the course of our career. IP violation is nothing but theft of somebody's intellect.
Intellectual property.
So here is somebody who's making a fake medicine. The weight loss medicine, which has come into the market globally just around 1 year back. We had a case in Delhi 6 months back of such fake products being sold.
Yes.
Now, that is unfortunate and gives India a very bad name that here is a country which is not able to enforce and protect intellectual property. And here again, the ordinary citizenry should be conscious of the fact that what he is purchasing may harm his health, may be fatal for him. So, we run campaigns, Jago Grahak, ensure that he asks for a bill, but that's one aspect. Second aspect is how everybody, the police, the judiciary, the department, does not realize that every act of evasion of duty, like you rightly pointed out, means loss of jobs. If a smuggled good comes in, somebody who can manufacture goods in India is no longer in manufacturing.
No.
Loss of revenue. More importantly, that revenue which is so generated from smuggling is outside the tax chain. I can use it for any number of nefarious purposes.
Correct.
I can use it for criminal activities. I can use it for anti-national activities. So the damage is not just loss of revenue. It is multiple other multiplier effects which consequently happen because of this generation of illicit revenue. So I think we are making efforts. I'm in a committee of FICCI, which seeks to raise awareness. We have campaigns, we make study reports and let them know, involving the government, that look, smuggling is not just an issue of revenue. Don't look at it from the revenue perspective. The government of India can make up that revenue elsewhere. Loss of jobs, loss of that money from the entire tax chain, and that money being used for nefarious activities is something we should all be very, very concerned about.
Absolutely, sir. And I think the kind of activities or the kind of things that can be done with that money that has been lost, which would probably evade a lot of poverty in a lot of parts of the society, right? I mean, some of the parts of the society, the kind of poverty that they're witnessing at the moment is sort of overlooked, but yet this is where I think that the government should be probably investing money to evade this pretty much. So you launched SWIFT, which is the single window interface of trade, which reduced the dwell time at ports and it created a real economic value for the ports. So why do India's biggest bureaucratic wins go completely unnoticed by public?
I'll just tell you a little background about SWIFT. Every time any item is imported into the country, there are multiple non-tariff requirements to be fulfilled. If it's pharmaceutical, the Ministry of Pharmaceuticals is involved in it. If it is textiles, the Ministry of Textiles is concerned about it. If it is a product which has to have an MRP, the Ministry of Metrology, Department of Legal Metrology is concerned with it. Since they're not at the port, they ask the Customs Department to do that work. Now, the Customs Department invariably is blamed for delay at the ports. Importers and the trade realizes why it is delayed. The general public at large doesn't know that. They think customs have delayed it. Customs have the burden of ensuring that the release of the goods is done only after all these requirements imposed by multiple other ministries over which the Ministry of Finance and Customs does not have any control is fulfilled. So here this guy, the importer, has to go to each one of them and get the necessary permissions, release it to us. The whole process involves time. And remember, in a port, if a goods come in a container, it involves money. Because the goods are in the container, no port likes to keep a container lying in this port. So it's removed from the port and sent to a customs warehouse or an extended arm of the port, which is known as the container warehousing stations. It goes there. And that is money. For every single day, a container gives just 24 hours free.
Absolutely.
After that, the shipping line charges you by the minute. So what we thought was, why don't we bring all the ministries on board in a single online system, whereby the importer beforehand knows what goods he's getting and applies to each one of them. And then we ask this ministries concerned, give us the permission online. Because in any which case, all the documentation is being done online and we will ensure that it gets cleared. It dramatically brought around the dwell time. Dwell time is the amount of time a goods spend in a port. It brought down the goods time dramatically. All ministries came on board. All ministries are appreciative. Yes, the trade also hugely complimented us. So though the general public at large doesn't know, I can assure you the trade in India is very, very grateful.
And you were the man behind it.
I was also a party to the decision making. You see, to claim a monopoly or any decision that the government makes,
It's a teamwork.
is silly. It's a teamwork. So I was happy to be there, and I was fortunate we had a good team. And remember, it was all IT driven. So we had a good IT team. We had to bring on board different set of systems from different ministries. So it was very, very challenging, and the process was slow to get each of the ministries. But we got the major ministries immediately, and thereafter now it's expanding further. In fact, in the last budget, again, mention had been made in the speech of the FM about SWIFT as something which is again being expanded.
How long did it actually take you to get it to?
It took us around 6 months to 8 months to the whole process. One, to put our IT systems in place, to convince the ministries. And he said, instead of getting everybody on board, let us start with one or two major ministries. The FSSAI, which looks at food security, food safety, was the first ministry department we got on board. Because most of the imports where the controls are this.
Yes.
So we got them on board, and everybody else came one by one.
Wow. That must have significantly changed the way the trade is done with India.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It cut down costs.
Massive one. Awesome. So India's young force is entering the world of GST, compliance, digital taxation, and AI-driven audits. Is India's tax system getting simpler for ordinary citizens or more intimidating? I mean, what is your...
What does GST try to seek to do? I mean, let's step back. Prior to GST, you had taxes on taxes. You had taxes imposed by the state government. You had taxes imposed by the central government. You had barriers in every single state. Checkposts in every single state, octroys, delays. A decision by a company as to where to set up a factory was not based on economic reasons. It was based on the reason where my taxes are going to be a little lesser.
Less.
Pharma industries came up in a remote corner of India. I don't know whether you ever heard of a place called Baddi. It's in Himachal Pradesh. All the pharmaceutical industries came up there because Himachal Pradesh offered special economic zones status for those industries coming up there. But the logistics is so challenging to get raw materials into Baddi, to remove the finished product from Baddi onto Bombay or wherever the major centers of distribution are, was challenging. It didn't make any sense. What GST did was, subsumed all the taxes in the country and made it into one omnibus tax. Gave credit for all taxes paid at the early stage. For instance, take the specs. I give this example very often. It has plastic, it has resin, it has paint. There are taxes paid on each of these stage. Then you have a final product, which is a specs, which has a tax again. Prior to GST, there's no set off on the taxes paid at each one of these input stages. It added to costs. With GST, I get a set off for all taxes paid at the earlier stage, and I pay only the tax which is on the final stage minus the taxes paid at the earlier stage. That's it. It's a positive benefit.
Yeah.
What followed after this was I didn't need to have borders at the states. I didn't need to have checkposts at the states. If you notice, even all over, even today, you have these relics of excise posts there. They're no longer required because the taxes across the country are the same. We said one nation, one tax, we delivered. We said no cascading of taxes, we delivered. We said technology driven, we delivered. And mind you, technology was the greatest challenge. On the one hand, you had Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Telangana, Kerala, all technologically very, very robust. Other hand, you had the northeast states. You had Bihar, you had Odisha, where the challenges were there. So we had to work closely with the DOT, with the Department of Telecom, to ensure that in the remote corner of Bihar, somebody is in a position to file a bill of entry or document, not a bill of entry, or document, because everything was to be technology driven. And there were challenges on that as much as in saving the law and getting all the states on board. So GST, I think, is work in progress. We had multiple taxes in the initial phases, multiple slabs. That was a decision taken only to ensure the transition is smooth. Last September, that has been reduced to just 2 slabs now. So the simplification process is going on. Ideally, there should be one rate for all goods. Now, that's a political call because the argument against is how can there be the same rate of tax for Hawaii chappal and refrigerator? And it doesn't appeal to a politician that he can make this argument anywhere that
Correct.
it should be the same. Therefore, it has to be done slowly, but ultimately there has to be lesser number of slabs. If there are lesser number of slabs, there's no issue of classification.
Correct.
Where should I classify a product? Irrespective of where I classify, I pay a single rate. So ultimately, simplification is the way forward. That is happening. And personally, I believe it is necessary for the country.
And what was your role in this entire process?
Oh, I was intimately involved. Remember again, what the GST meant was you needed to have a constitutional amendment because the constitution clearly had spelled out what are the powers of the state, what are the powers of the center, who could tax what. And now what we are trying to do was to merge all these taxes into one tax law and create a GST council which will recommend the rates. So the states lost their fiscal powers. So the center also lost its fiscal powers. And it was a joint cooperative federalism at work, and it needed a lot of persuasion. So the constitutional amendment we got through, then we passed all the laws, had it approved by the parliament, had it assented to by the president of India, had it agreed to by all the states in the country.
Wow.
And so it involved a lot of coordination, close work, and it was very, very satisfying.
And probably a lot of hard work as well behind that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We had more than 1,700 hours of GST Council meeting. We trained our officers, more than 55,000 officers were trained. We created more than 50 subgroups across the states to get views and inputs on the proposals. And a lot of back work involved talking to the ministers, talking to the state governments. And I must place on record, and I've told this several times in the past, that GST today is directly thanks to the presence of Mr. Arun Jaitley as the finance minister. He was popular. He was acceptable across the aisle. Opposition parties and the ruling parties, he could bring them all on the same on board. He was extremely patient. We had GST Council meetings running for 3 days in a row, where he would listen to them, take decisions, arrive at decisions, persuade them to accept it, saying that it's the larger good, we have to do it, and met all their concerns. Worked the phones, talking to all the ministers to say, this is why we have to do what we have to do. If you have any concerns, let me know. We'll try and address it. So I think a lot of credit goes to Mr. Arun Jaitley, who was the finance minister at that point of time when GST came.
But it actually got imposed later on after his term, or was it imposed during
No,
his
it
term?
was imposed during his term.
Okay, all right. Brilliant. Awesome. A question that the entire country is asking at the moment, and I think no better person other than you to answer this. So, very recently, Modi came on television and he advised people not to buy gold, not to travel abroad, not to work from home if possible, and they're sort of enforcing it as well. Do carpooling instead of traveling with your own car. Do not buy any new vehicles if possible. Why do you think he's doing this? As a common man, not many people understood this. And I think you also mentioned that the duty on gold and silver has gone up to 15%. Now, that seems like someone is trying to stop us from buying gold. But why? Why are we doing this at the moment?
We have a challenge going ahead economically. The Strait of Hormuz closure or reduction in the flow of ships means that not just petroleum products, aluminum, fertilizers, urea, and a lot of other such essential commodities are getting impacted, not just for India, but globally. Our foreign exchange position is comfortable. But for the last 2 months, there have been a lot of FII outflows, money going out of the country. Having said that, our gold position also is very comfortable. Nevertheless, obviously the government believes that you'll require a lot more foreign exchange for purchasing essentials like oil and fertilizers and urea, aluminum, which are necessary for the country. And compared to these essentials, gold certainly is a very, very trivial item which you could do away with for some time. In keeping with that view that please don't buy gold, the government has also increased the rate of duty on gold from 6% to 15% today. Now, that's a very steep increase and obviously aimed at discouraging the common man from buying gold. But like I always mention, gold, unfortunately, is a cultural issue in India. And we need to address that. That craze for gold comes primarily because there's so much of social pressure on marriages, on social conventions, where gold is a critical part of your entire transactions. So I think that needs to be addressed. Hopefully that will change. But in the meantime, what the government has now announced is only in that backdrop. Preserve and save foreign exchange because we need it for purchasing more important things for the country.
Brilliant. Do you reckon there's some sort of secret message coming across saying, okay, we might get into a war with Pakistan and something like that? Or
I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't think it's right for us to speculate because a war is a dirty business.
Yes.
It impacts every one of us.
Yes.
Economically, politically, it impacts every one of us. And every war has shown us there are no real winners in this. It hurts everybody. So I hope and pray there's no war. I hope and pray there's no secret message here. I do not know at all, but
possibly. While we were on a break, I asked you a question about Durandar. I mean, all the fake money that's coming into India. I mean, that was one of the key pointers in Durandar, and what actions India took on these problems. And you gave me a beautiful explanation on what really happens in the back end and how it is impacted. I mean, do you want to tell us how the fake money is impacting India and why are we still facing that problem?
No. Fake Indian currency destroys the economy. It damages the integrity of the Indian financial system. You are accepting currency from somebody assuming that it is genuine. And if it is fake, obviously it's nothing but a piece of paper. The government of India has always been extremely wary and cognizant about FSEN and taking a lot of action. But yes, we have had instances of it coming from across the border. And we have also had some instances of local persons trying to make fake Indian currencies. If you notice, the RBI keeps strengthening its security protocols, which I know has to fulfill before it is treated as a genuine currency. So that has become a little more challenging for people to make fake currencies. So fake currencies are bad for the economy. And I think it damages the integrity of the financial systems.
Awesome. All right. So now talking about your leadership skills, sir. So what is the real difference between a bureaucrat who moves the system and the one who gets moved by the system?
I think a bureaucrat feels that he's moving the system, but he cannot be a sole player there. He has to take his colleagues along with him, take other departments along with him, take the political bosses along with him, convince them that what is sought to be done as a policy measure is something good for the country. And the others who don't come out with these ideas, we should try and persuade them so that they become part of this process of reform and improvement. So I think both are critical in ensuring that some reform is carried out.
So we are a 1.3 billion population at the moment. Maybe less than 1% get to experience the powers of being a bureaucrat. And majority of them, or 99.9% of them, probably would never experience it. So can you tell me a day in an IAS or an IRS officer or bureaucrat's officer's life? What does he go through And do you think it's a blessing in a way, or it's more of a curse, or more of a blessing?
No, it is definitely a blessing. I mean, if you look at your job where you have an opportunity of doing good for the society, for the country, as a curse, then God help you. I think it's unfortunate. You don't deserve to be there. So I think it's a blessing. I think it is something which every bureaucrat seeks to discharge honestly. Some do it, some don't. But they set out to try and do something honestly. And a typical bureaucrat's life involves some decisions to be carried out, some supervisory work to ensure that the decisions carried out in the past are being implemented in the manner in which they ought to be implemented, in ensuring that his team is on board with whatever processes you are putting in place, and to hear the citizenry, to hear them, to find out what are the problems and try to address those problems. That's how a typical bureaucrat's day is.
And and is pressures and I mean, trying to influence your day-to-day job is also part of this.
It's just part of the job. I mean, you have pressures in every aspect of life, and you jolly well have to face them. And you can't say because of pressure, I'm doing this or doing that, if it is against your integrity. So pressures are going to be there, but you nevertheless do the right thing.
But did you ever get work from home while you were working?
You're asking whether I got work to home or work from home.
Work from home.
No, I did not get any work from home. I got a lot of work to home because a lot of paperwork files, especially that routine dark, which you're not able to clear it, physical dark, you carry it home, and online you do it again in the house only. So yes, I did not carry any work from home, but I carried a lot of work to home.
Awesome. So, what do you think is that one leadership lesson that no management course could ever teach you? Like no IMs or no ISBs can ever teach someone. What is that one thing that you learned through your experience that you would probably want to tell a youngster?
Learn to listen to your colleagues and your subordinates. Far too many of us assume merely because you have passed your civil services examination that you're God's answer to all problems on earth. You're not. There's a lot of learning we have to do. So first, learn to listen. It is critical if you want to be a leader. Learn to take responsibility. Again, this is essential. I will not name the finance minister, but parliament questions are sacrosanct. You can't give incorrect information. When I was joint secretary in the ministry, based on data received by me from my various field formations, we had prepared a note, and that was figures and data. All parliament question replies are printed beforehand, placed in the house of the parliament. We brief the finance minister and tell him that this is a reply. In case of further questions come, these are the replies you have to give. We also accompany the minister to the house of the parliament to help him answer supplementary questions. Now, after we have finished this entire process of briefing the minister, we get a message from a couple of my formations to say the data which they've given is wrong, is incorrect, and the correct data is so and so. Now, it is like a death knell for a bureaucrat because you have misled the house. So I rushed to the finance minister, told him that this incorrect data is there. I take responsibility because I should have rechecked with what has been given to me. I just assumed that this data is correct. He heard me out. He said, all right. He said, please come along with me to the house. I said, yeah, I'm coming. And I expected the worst. He stands up in the house and says, we have given you this information. I'm now told this information is incorrect. I take full responsibility for this. I have briefed my officers that this should not happen in future. So the right information I'm placing in the house now. Not a word happened. All the MPs accepted it. And I saluted the FM to say that, look, this is leadership.
Wow.
You have taken responsibility, knowing full well that I, as the joint secretary, have misled you. You knew the circumstances that it had been in turn, I have been in turn misled by a whole chain of people around the line. But it was my responsibility ultimately to give you the right information. But he took responsibility. Now, those are the sort of lessons we learn. that
Such politicians exist?
yes, indeed, they do, and so nothing happened thereafter. Now that's a lesson which I knew, but I saw it in action in front of me of taking responsibility. I think that's a critical element for all leaders. You need to know that you are responsible and the buck stops with you. You can't keep taking shelter in passing the buck on to somebody else. So that is another lesson. So learning to listen, learning to take responsibility, and jolly well knowing your work. You cannot be a leader if you do not know your work. You have to know your work. You make it your business to know your work, learn from others, and at some point of time, you should know what you're talking, which means you should know your work. That comes in with a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, which is
Wow.
critical.
Wow. Coming to a very sensitive segment at the moment, sir. So the world is talking about AI at the moment. They say AI is going to take over jobs. A lot of governments today have actually started implementing AI into governance. Dubai is speaking about, or UAE is talking about 2047 plan where they want to have half of the governance run by AI. Now, do you think that's a good idea? And do you think, is that going to impact I know it's going to impact the private sector, where a lot of jobs will be created, but a lot of existing jobs will be wiped out. But do you think that would impact the public sector as well? And if yes, what jobs will get impacted?
No, look, you can't escape AI. It's a fact of life now. And the government and the public sector are cognizant and aware of that fact. So yes, I think it's critical that we learn to use AI to our advantage. Even now, AI is certainly being used in data crunching, in data analysis. It is a critical tool for all of us in the government. So I think all governments will have to work with AI. I am not aware of how many jobs are going to be lost. I think they will be relocated elsewhere where they are more useful. Perhaps AI will function more efficiently in some places, but in most places, I think the human brain is still required to run the AI successfully. So I think the government will ensure that it makes appropriate use of AI.
Wow. Another very sensitive topic that I keep coming across is the pressure that has been applied on the youngsters of today, where the pressure is not coming from somewhere outside. It's predominantly from internal, which is their parents or cousins or friends or family, on how to prepare for UPSC. And there's a lot of these institutes. I mean, I tell you my story. I was in 10th grade and my father pulled me. I was playing for the state under 14 state cricket. And he pulled me out of the ground on a live game and he put me in an IIT institute. And I was supposed to start at 6 a.m. in the morning, finish at 9 p.m. in the evening. We believe, or at least the science says, that your brain cannot absorb for more than 40 minutes of information. And I was there for more than 16 hours, sitting there trying to grasp all the information, which I always thought I was not made for it. The way that I was asked to, grasp the education. And there was instances where we used to have bets with people where if you go talk to that guy and if he responds back, I'll pay you 100 rupees. Because that guy was so immersed in his studies that he would not even reply back to your, people around you, the peers around you. He was like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody. So with this kind of education strategies that people apply today, and they're being proud of 99.9%, 99.8%, and you said you were an average student who cracked UPSC for the first time. What advice would you give to the students on, is this really required, or there are other ways to,
Look, thanks to the competition increasing these days, there's lots of pressure on youngsters. I think families need to be a little more sympathetic to the concerns of the youngsters. They need to encourage them. They need to realize that putting pressure will not always work. Far too many students will crack under pressure, and it hurts them more than encourages them. I don't know about your experience, whether having gone for the IIT training classes, you were able to get through the IIT.
Never.
So So I believe uh, what is essential is diligence, is hard work, is concentration, is perseverance, and those elements are critical for you to go forward, and the ability to absorb some pressure and ensure that you don't get too bogged down under pressure. All this is easier said than done, especially when competition is so intense. But I think youngsters need to learn that there's more to life than civil services, for instance. You don't have to break your back about it. There are far many opportunities available for you, and you need to ensure that you remain committed. You don't lose hope, which is critical, and you pursue.
So if I have to, go back in time and let's say I come down to you and ask you, sir, I have these two options. Should I prepare for civil services or should I build a company? What would your advice be to me?
I have no ideas of companies. I do not know how to build a companies. If you ask me to build a company, I'll be a complete failure. So I will say, prepare for the civil services. But if your interest and passion lies elsewhere, pursue that passion. That's the critical part. If your passion says, I need to build a company, do that rather than get bogged down in civil services.
Awesome. Now, if you had this technology that you have today, when you were managing these ports, do you think you might have implemented a technology to catch these smugglers more easily? Do you think it would have probably helped you at that time?
Definitely, most certainly. We have in almost all spheres of governmental life risk management systems. We try to ensure that we look at data. We run risk parameters so that we focus on those which are perceived to be risky rather than everything. Because the critical mistake which most people, bureaucrats especially, make is to treat all people, all citizens as crooks. It's not so. There's a very small percentage who try to game the system. There's a very small percentage who give everybody else a bad name. So the whole idea of technology should be to focus, identify on these small elements and ensure that you curb them from being what they want to do. So yes, we have started using technology, but the current technology, the technological advances made, had we had them, we would have used them much more. But currently, I'm told that this is certainly being put to great use by the government.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So, knowing you personally as well, I know you write regularly. You write for Deccan Herald, you CNBC TV 18 on topics from GST to corporate governance to the philosophy of resentment and things like that. So when did you discover that you can actually write?
I always believed I was a great writer, but I never had a chance to test it out. So I was too busy in my initial part of my career. Post my retirement, I thought I had a lot to inform and tell the public at large. I thought I had a lot of ideas. I thought I need to write it down. And fortunately, publications accepted what I was writing. So yes, I've been writing regularly thereafter for Deccan Herald, Economic Times, CNBC. So it gives me a lot of satisfaction because I think I have some things to say. You may agree, may not agree, but it gives me satisfaction.
I see. Perfect. You retired in 2017, sir. What did the first morning feel like the day after your retirement when nobody needed you or they didn't want you to make decisions that affected thousands of people?
Absolute relief. So I was happy. I was satisfied with what I had done in my career. I went home with a great deal of satisfaction. I had worked the previous day till late night. There was the GST Council meeting which happened on the previous day. So I was in the office till late night and thereafter ensured I prepared a proper handing over note to my successor. And happy. I was happy that I had gone out of the services with my head held high.
Do you miss it, sir?
I don't, because I discovered a whole world beyond the government. What do you have a life after 60? Another 10 years, 20 years? So I thought, why not use that for pursuing other interests, which I am. So it gives me satisfaction.
Wow. Wow. Very few people who I've met who's told me. I mean, I grew up with a lot of bureaucrats because my dad was secretary to a lot of them, more than 30, 35 of them. And I was quite close to most of them. And first time someone actually told me that they don't miss the power, I would say, including my dad. I mean, he never said, he always said he missed it. He always missed it. So, final segment, the firecracker round, where I want you to be blatantly honest. I know you have always been, but I want you to be blunt. All right. So one word for India's tax system today.
Good, could be better.
Could be better. The one reform India needs right now that no politicians will touch because it's too honest.
No, I will not venture into saying a reform has anything to do with honesty as such. If I talk of GST, there's a whole lot of sectors that are outside GST, petroleum products, that adds to your costs. I hope that petroleum comes into the GST fold. That is the reform which the country desperately needs. And I hope it happens sooner rather than later.
Awesome. The one person inside India's system from any era whose integrity you will always respect, like without any qualification. So who would that be?
Dr. Abdul Kalam. I have had the privilege of meeting him.
Wow.
Simple, humble, and puts all of us to shame, his sheer simplicity and humbleness.
Wow.
So I think it is something that we should all try to emulate, as here's a man who was the Rashtrapati of the country and carried no airs about him.
And is that where your simplicity and your...
No. I don't know how simple I am. I am very conscious of the fact that you are what you are because of some privileges which God has been kind enough to bestow upon you. And you jolly well carry it with humility because it is temporary.
Absolutely. 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 What habit silently destroys government careers and what habit silently builds them?
Letting power get into your head
Destroys that.
destroys that, because you then don't carry out decisions in the manner in which you ought to be carried. Ensure you work hard, ensure you read, ensure you learn, ensure you try to do good, which is for the larger good rather than for any smaller segment of industry or individuals. That, I think, is something which all of us as bureaucrats ought to be doing.
Awesome. Okay. Now the last question. So somewhere in India right now, a 22-year-old guy is staring at his phone, waiting for the offer letter that hasn't come yet. So if you were to speak to them, what would you say? I mean, if you could just look at the camera and you are staring into his eyes and giving him that one last advice, all right, where this guy is in despair, he is waiting for his, first offer letter, but it's not in his phone yet. What would you tell him?
Keep the faith, work hard, persevere, never lose hope. And all the very best to all youngsters who are watching this program.
So it was an absolute pleasure having you. I mean, I did blabber a bit. Sorry, guys, because I was nervous my legs were shaking at the bottom. It's not because I was scared, but it was out of respect that I owe for this man. I see him going on his evening walks every evening for the last 4 years. I've never researched about who. I knew he was a bureaucrat. I know he was big, but I did do my research for him for this podcast. And so you shook my world. You shook my world, and whatever impact that Abdul Kalam had on you, you have it on me today.
I'm flattered. Thank you so much.
So much, and it was a pleasure having you today.
Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for coming down. It was a pleasure having you.
Pleasure.
And I'll just take my...
Don't be silly.
Thank you.
Don't be silly.
Thank you so
Don't
much.
do that.
It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for our second episode of podcast today. And thanks to Roxy and Barry for sponsoring our venue today. An amazing place. Come and check them out. The ambience is out of it would take your breath away. Let me put it that way. The food is amazing. The drinks are amazing. Come and check them out. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.